The New South Wales government is yet to finalise a plan for schools as millions of rapid antigen tests start arriving. Joining us live now is the New South Wales Education Minister, Sarah Mitchell. Minister, good to have you with us this morning. Thanks for your time. So how sure are you that all students will be ready and will be able to go back to school on day one of term one?
Well, obviously, Pete, we want schools to be open, and we've made it pretty clear throughout the summer holidays that we will be back on day one, term one here in New South Wales. We know that that's important. It's the best thing for our students. It's important for families, and that's what we have in place in New South Wales. So obviously, we'll be releasing our back to school plans following National Cabinet. I think the main point that parents need to know is that your children will be back, and obviously we'll be looking at what other COVID safe measures we'll be using, and rapid antigen tests will be a part of that this term as well.
All right, so they'll all be having 2 rapid antigen tests for the first week, and then so on and so forth. That'll be ready across the state?
Yeah, so look, those details will be released as part of our plans in terms of the frequency and how often we want to be using them. But we've got a massive logistic exercise underway at the moment. Those antigen tests have started to be shipped out to schools. We've got teams working around the clock to make that happen. Deliveries coming in every day, literally hundreds of thousands of tests being processed and sent out to our schools. That will continue, obviously, in the lead up to students returning here largely on the 1st of February, is the first day for most of our kids. To be able to use rapid antigen tests, we think it's an important part of the return to school. It helps give parents confidence. We'll be using it for our staff who might be household contacts but are well and can come back to work. And also looking at some surveillance testing options for our students as well.
Will they be administered at home, or will that be done at school, those rapid antigen tests?
Yeah, look, they'll be done at home, and that's in line with what we've done when we've used rapid antigen tests in New South Wales school settings before. In Term 4, we did use them to help students come back to school if they were close contacts. They could do it daily and be back in the classroom. So some school communities and parents are familiar with using them already, and that's the intention behind these antigen tests as well.
So for the parents, would they just have to go to school and pick them up?
Yeah, so we'll obviously work with our parents and our school communities to get them distributed out to families. Obviously, we'll look at how we can do that prior to school returning. And then, of course, once students are back, there'll be opportunities to do that as part of the sort of school pickup and in the school bag. But again, they're the details that we'll provide to families later in the week when the back to school plan is announced following National Cabinet.
OK, so just picking up a point that you said earlier, you're not sure just yet whether it is going to be every week?
Well, look, as I said, we're finalising the details in terms of how frequent those tests will be, how long that will go for. We're talking to Victoria and, of course, our health experts in relation to that as well. Obviously, we think it's important that we do it, on a regular basis so it can be used for that surveillance to pick up any students who might be asymptomatic but positive, and that's what we want to do. But they're the details that the Premier will take to National Cabinet tomorrow, and again, we'll be in a position to share a bit more publicly about that later in the week.
The union was on our program yesterday and suggested that at any one time, 25% of the teachers may have to be absent because they're COVID positive. Is that the kind of numbers that you're working with at any one time, and is that workable?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're modelling for each and every scenario. The reality is, we're not going to know until teachers test positive how we manage that in a particular school context. But what we've got is a range of options for schools to draw on if they do have staff shortages because they have staff who have COVID. So obviously using our casual pools, we've put a call out to our final year university students and our recently retired teachers to come back in and help out if we have shortages in their local schools. We're looking at deploying our department staff who are teachers, who are now bureaucrats, back into the classroom, who have teaching qualifications, looking at who might be in a school context who's in a non-teaching role. So someone who, for instance, might be an assistant principal or in a school leadership team but can go back into the classroom if they don't have a class allocated to them now. So there's a range of options that schools can draw on depending on what their staffing situation is, and plenty of support to help them do that.
What about parents supervising? Is that actually realistic?
Look, that's not something that we're looking at, Pete. I know that there's been some media reports that independent schools are considering that. We don't think that that's something that we're going to need to do. It's not on our list because, as I said, we've got workforce that we can draw on to fill any gaps that may arise, and that's our focus.
It sounds like it's going to be a kind of fly by the seat of your pants sort of school year.
No, look, I don't think so. I mean, I think we need to be realistic. There will be bumps along the way. We know that. We know that we might have schools that are impacted with staff. You know, as a regional MP and minister, I'm also concerned about some of our smaller regional schools where you might only have 1 or 2 staff members, and if one of them gets COVID, what that impact will be. But we're also looking at what are our resources available for students who might need to be at home if they are a household contact or if they are unwell with COVID themselves. So there is a lot of work being done to support any and every contingency, but we know the most important thing is to have our schools open, to have every student in every classroom every day as much as possible. That has to be the focus. Our kids have lost too much time due to COVID already. We will do everything that we can to have every school open and every kid in the classroom every day, and we make no apologies for that. It's important that that's our focus.
Sarah Mitchell, thanks for your time.
Thank you.